Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alien Talk. Today we're joined with Heidi Hollis. Hello, Heidi. Thank you for being here today. Um,
Right.
Now Heidi wrote the book on Shadow Man and Shadow People and the Hat Man. So we're excited to have her here and get her perspective on things, because for a while we've been wondering what the hell are Shadow People. Okay. Um, and I think there's going to be an interesting discussion between Ted and Heidi about now. Am I getting this name right? Cherubim, God's guardians. They guard his throne room. Cherubim, is that right?
Seraphim?
Seraphim, is that correct? Is it? Is that the ones you were describing, Ted?
Uh, I'm not sure. You'd have to describe again, and I'll
Or
tell you.
cherub? Cherub.
All right, so let's start off with the Shadow People. Okay, so what the hell are they?
I'm surprised you guys were wondering. I've been talking on them for 25 years now. I mean, and man, I wrote the book in 1997 called The Secret War. And I always came at it from a person that was heavily involved in UFOs and aliens. I've always connected them to that. It was ghost hunters all over the world that took me a long time to convince them that shadow people were real, first off. And I would get, oh, those are just the shadows of ghosts. And I'm like, wait till you meet one, you will change your tune. And then they ran with it after they started witnessing them. And oh, this is paranormal. I'm like, yeah, it's alien. It's alien. But it's all connected, right? So it's like as many years as I've put into this, being a regular on Coast to Coast AM for all the most of those years, um, it's like people caught wind, ran with it, and morphed it into whatever they wanted it to fit their narrative. And unfortunately, that kind of forced my hand to like trademark and try to control the damage because wow, there's cults surrounding it now. People are dying around it now. But to get back to your question, what are they? Okay, now remember 1997. Nobody had used these words. I did in my private home. People are telling me, "No, you didn't come up with that because me and my little brother called them that." Okay, I wasn't there in that conversation. So guess what? It was just myself in my own conversations, and so I'd seen UFOs that would respond and come when I'd kind of asked them to, and I had this interest, and witnessed, and since I was a teenager, UFOs that would follow me when I would be walking. I kind of lived out in the country, and then in college, having the first one, I'll never forget that first one that showed up, but when I asked for it. And so, oh gosh, it's so much to put into. I got 1 hour. so, so shadow people, I use the term to kind of combine what it was I was seeing with these shape-shifting black shadowy things coming around me. And didn't know how to categorize them. I belonged to a UFO group, started my own and ran it for 15 years. And I'm talking to people that have been abducted. I'd never been abducted. And people are like, oh, you probably just don't remember it. Well, I would think I'd get a hint, something during this whole time. And but I'd seen a lot of different alien beings. I'd experienced very positive beings and beings that you just don't see in books. You don't hear about them. So I just always would smile and nod, I'm like, but I'm getting these shadowy things that really don't seem to like me very much, and they would crowd my view and get in the way of things. And to make a
But
long story,
were you seeing them at night when you were sleeping, or just in the daytime, or when were you seeing them?
any time of day. The very first one that I saw was following a friend of mine and I while we are walking through a park in broad daylight. And that was the very first one. This thing was huge, probably 10 feet tall. And it was what I call the head and shoulder licking shadow, that one.
Uh-huh.
It kind of looks like a guy's head attached directly to shoulders, with the glowing slanted red eyes. Walking, this thing follows us. I'm like, am I seeing things? And my friends just talking. We return back to her house, and I'm like, look, I don't know what I just saw, but this thing just followed us. And I'm a cartoonist. I drew this book out, and I show her the drawing, and I'm thinking she's gonna start laughing, but instead she goes, "Oh, that thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's been following me since I was a kid. Hey, Dad, look who's back." And he's like, "No, not him again." So here's a family that was being terrorized by these things, and I'm like, "What?" I grew up in a haunted house. I know what ghosts look like. I know what they feel like. I didn't know what I was looking at. I had to go upstairs. I was staying at her family's home and to grab something. And I turned around and that darn thing was blocking my way out. And it was just hulking over me. Ugh, I get chills. The fresh fear of that moment and knowing how angry it was, I could feel it wanted to kill me. I could feel that it wanted to just like do me in. And I was like, if I stand here any longer, I'm going to pass out. So I'm like, okay, do I run? I knew if I ran, it's almost as if something whispered in my ear, don't run, don't swing at it. Close your eyes, say a prayer, and walk through it. And that's what I did. That's the only way I got out of there. And from that moment on, I didn't realize it that this was connected. I started having what I thought were nightmares. And with these in particular, what I call shadow spiders. And I hate spiders. I don't know anybody that likes them very much. But I would wake up in the middle of the night because something would drop from the ceiling onto my bed. And with every step, they're moving the blankets and crawling up, to my face. And I open my eyes to see rows of eyes, like a giant spider. Like, I know some people will say it's more like tentacles. And they took the form of pretty good solid spiders, and sometimes it'd be thousands of little ones. And I would get up, try to find something to kill these things, and I'd still see them. I'm like, how do you have a nightmare? Open your eyes and you're still there. I'm like, what am I dealing with? So this was going on for a good year or so. And again, I'm not connecting to what I saw at my friend's house. It was just bizarre. But so I'm like, but I started seeing these what I call like shadow clouds streaking by, shadow streaks. You think there's a giant bat in your place. And then, I joined this UFO group because I had this craft that showed up when I demanded it to, because I was ticked at the beings not showing up. Like, because I had friends that were like, oh, you're devil worshiping if you believe in that stuff. And I'm Christian, I wasn't like a hardcore, and I'm like, well, shoot, if you guys have something to do with that, I don't want anything to do with you if you don't show yourselves right now. And they did, like instantly, just, lit up. And I was like, oh, okay, I believe you. All right. These things are present and they could feel me. And I felt a comfort, not the terror, the abduction. I felt I knew them. And then much later, probably about a year or so, yes, that might have been a little bit more than that, having the biggest sighting I've ever seen in my life. And again, responding, just took up the entire night sky with one of my friends. And so I knew these things were listening, responding, comforting, as I'm being met with these shadowy things, and I'm in a UFO alien abduction group. Though I was just the only one in there that had been a witness, not been abducted. And these people, wow, absolutely terrorized. It just, from horrific abuse, people sleeping with guns under their pillow, and to watch this transformation going to, I'm chosen, everything's okay now. I'm like, hold on, you sleep with a gun. You said if they take your child again, you're gonna go bonkers on them and slice them into pieces. And you woke up with a bloodied pillow so bad it looked like a pig was slaughtered on it. And you're okay now? Like, it was weird to watch this love and light come in. And I'm like, Stockholm syndrome, what is going on here? I didn't know what was going on. But long story short, skipping a lot because it's a big, crazy, long story. But I got a black helicopter over my place like soon after I joined this group. And I mean, it looked like it was going to land on the house. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I've read about these things. Oh my goodness, friends come over, they're like, "What's with the helicopter?" I'm like, "I know, it's unmarked. The trees are slapping back and forth." It was crazy. It was crazy.
But let
Um,
me ask you, could you hear the motor, or you just heard the flapping of the
I
propeller?
I was mowing the lawn and it was an electric lawnmower. I accidentally tripped over the cord and I expected to hear silence, but it was replaced with a whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm like, where's that coming from? It's a helicopter about to squash me. I couldn't believe it. So it was very loud. It was very loud. And I
Mm.
flipped them off and went in the house because I knew who they were, what they're associated with. I couldn't believe it. In the middle of a neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like it
Can I
wasn't
can I
in a
just ask
quiet
you
area.
who do you think it was?
Well, that I think was government. I really do. And
Mm.
I couldn't believe it though, because I wasn't an abductee. I was a witness to UFOs, yes, but just so odd.
To be
And
to
then
be honest, Heidi, all the things you said are classic signs of abduction.
I know you're talking to the queen of alien stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody would try to tag me with that. Oh, you probably have hybrid children. It's a lot deeper than that. It's not the typical scenario, but and that's what I was going to get to next. So I woke up one day and I thought somebody broke into my apartment. Here I'm in college. My dad told me it's like my first apartment by myself. And he's like, a young lady should not live on the first floor of an apartment by themselves because anybody could break in. I'm like, oh, Dad, I'm wise. I got a first floor apartment with bars on the window, and they're cute ones too. So I think I'm all smart. My dad's like rolling his eyes. So I wake up one night and it sounds like somebody broke into my apartment, and I'm like, oh. Dad was right. I'm like, oh no, and I'm like, my door's wide open. I'm hearing loud rustling. And I'm like, okay, Heidi, you're going to bolt through the living room and not look back and get the jump on whoever's broken into your apartment. Because if I put my feet down on the side of the bed, they're going to see me. So I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. And I start booking it through my living room where the sound is coming from, heading towards the kitchen to get out. And I stop dead in my tracks. I'm like, did I just see like little 4 foot tall children in my apartment? And I turn back and I go to them. Their backs were to me, two kids, and they're going through my bookshelf. And I got between the two of them, and I'm like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And they had my stuff in their hands, and I said, "Put that down. Who are you?" They turned their heads towards me, gray alien beings, and they had the two slits for the nose and the slit for the mouth, but it was like, oh no, she's up. And I was like, what are you doing here? Like I recognize what these things are. And they froze. And I heard noise behind me. I had a large walk-in closet. I go in there, there's two more just ravaging through my closet. I'm like, what? Who are you? What are you doing here? I thought I was about to die. And here's these tiny itty bitty creatures. And I'm like, and I'm running through my apartment. There's two more in my kitchen. I mean, they are just shredding, going through all my stuff. I go into the bathroom because my bathroom, okay, the bathroom was just off the kitchen, and the bathroom door was closed and the light was on. And I was like, oh, come on now. Now behind me is my exit to my door to get out of the apartment. But I don't feel threatened. These things are itty bitty. I'm walking around freely. And I'm like, the door was closed, and I'm like, oh, that's not happening. And I swung the door open, and when I did, and I've told this story for more than a couple of decades now, but swung this door open, and I didn't know there was one behind the door. So when I swung it open, it knocked one over. Oops, I almost knocked my stuff over here. I swung the door open and it knocked him over. And there was another being that was grabbing something off the back of my toilet. And I'm asking each of these beings as I'm going around the apartment, who are you? What are you doing here? Really fast, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here? And because I was just like in that fight or flight kind of mode. I need to get out of this place. And then I'm like, child size, these things are so little. Come on now. And I go into the bathroom, pick that one that was grabbing something off the back of my toilet. This one had clothes on. Had like a skin tight, like almost like suspender shape, like outfit on. And
What color was that outfit?
I want to say it was blue. I want to say it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and
I
so,
described those in my book.
oh, okay. Well, and then I went to pick this thing up by his little suspenders, and I grabbed him and I lifted him up, and I said with each word, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Like with every shake, and I'm like, and I heard in my head behind the one that fell to the ground to my right. I hear in my head, "I'm your nephew. I'm your nephew." And I still got this one in my hands, and I look down to the one on the ground, and he's got his arms up blocking as if he's afraid I'm gonna stomp on him or something. And he goes, as he keeps repeating, "I'm your nephew, I'm your nephew." And I watched this little thing shapeshift in front of my eyes. It always gives me chills. It's just weird. Into a baby blue suit and an afro. And I was like, I said to this thing, I said, "You're not my nephew. You look like him when he was 10 years old. He's in his 20s now." My nephew was like only a few years younger than me, you know? And I'm like, and it was just so crazy. And then I turned my attention back to the one that I had in my hands, right? And that's when I really got a good look at this one. This one did not look like the others. The others were grays. I don't recall them having any clothing on. But this one was flesh colored. It had the same type shape face, but it was fleshy, and it had freckles around its nose, and it had curly red tuft of hair on top of its head, large almond shaped eyes, and bright blue, like a hybrid. You know, like I'd heard of. I don't even think I heard of them much back then. And this thing was vibrating so fast. I felt bad. I felt like I had just terrorized a kid, you know? And I'm like, and I put it down. I said, "Hey, hey, hey, it's okay, it's okay." I mean, it was, you know, like it's gonna cry or something. And I set it back down and I said, "Hey, it's okay, it's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm asking you guys who you are. No one's saying anything, and this one's lying, you know?" And I said, "Hey, hey, just relax." And it sound everybody always laughs about this, but I'm just like, this is true. I'm trying to calm down a little kid. And I said, "It's okay. Do you want a cookie? I'll get you a cookie. Just relax, you know." And I turned to my kitchen to go get a cookie, and I had the coolest cookie jar, Marvin the Martian, and it's on top of my refrigerator. And I turn around to go get it, and that's when I saw all the other grays had lined up in a V, like and right at the door. And I'm like, "Oh, great. You know, what do you guys want?" You know, I'm like, and I'm looking above them for the cookie jar to calm this one down. And that's when they all tipped on their heels like 3 times in sync, and they focus at me. And I felt this wave come boom, you know, hit me. And everything went black, just gone, like knocked me out. And I was like, I didn't recall anything happen. I woke up in my bed, and I was like, "Oh, where did you guys go? Where did you go?" I was like, "Oh no." I was like, they did not just pull this crap, right? And that day, the Head and Shoulder shadow being showed up. I had not seen that thing since I'd seen that one a couple years prior or something. And all of a sudden that's back in my place. And I'm like, "What the heck is this?" You know, I'm like, and I never had a story to share at the UFO group. That one wasn't mine. It was a hypnotist that had started this group because she had all these people with PTSD, and turns out it was all alien abductions. And so she started this group. So I joined this group, and everybody's talking like every month about, horrible experiences. And I'm like, I think some of your stuff washed off on me. I've never seen an alien before outright and never had a black helicopter. And I joined this group, Black Helicopter. I see like 9 aliens in my apartment, and I choke one. I didn't choke it. I picked it up by its little suspenders. But yeah, and then this whole shadow people thing really came into my days like constantly.
I,
Um,
can I add, throw a little of my experience in here with yours?
oh,
Uh,
sure, and the connection to how they bump into being, because they're right alongside of aliens, these shadow beings, and how they transform into them. But
yeah.
yes, go. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to have, because we're all learning, and I certainly don't have all the answers, and I don't want to imply that I do by interjecting this, but if you get a chance sometime in the future to read Masquerade of Angels, my book that was written with Carla Turner, I describe an abduction in which I was cloned, and then I was taken on this huge mothership into an auditorium that housed all these creatures, all kinds that we see. Uh,
Hmm.
and there was a Nordic looking tall, very handsome man in charge on the stage. And then I learned later under hypnosis that he actually had a dinosaur shaped face. Uh, but he brought out 12 little characters, like little children size, dressed in these little blue suspender uniforms.
Haha.
Okay. And then on the other side of the stage, they brought out 12 little monk shaped figures that was in like monk's clothing, and their faces were dark and had red eyes. And
Okay.
and the audience was told that I was assigned 12 of these little suspender guys. They were my good angels for the rest of my life. And the little monks were the demons who were also assigned to me. And each one would work in accordance with each other of what the missions were to be concerning me. And so I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's accurate information, but that's
Hmm.
what I saw, what I remembered, and what I also relived under hypnosis. Also,
Nice.
I wanted to contribute. Uh, I've been abducted so many times I can't even recall how many in my life, but there was more than one instance in which shadow men came,
Yeah.
and these ethereal looking characters, shadow people, I call them, had me in there. I've seen both. They've come and taken me out of through the walls of my house and into a craft. And when they got inside, they turned off the technology and they were grays.
Yeah. They shapeshift into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
right. And but they're doing it under technology. It's, they're not shape shifting naturally, like it's uh, an ability within themselves. Uh, it's technology that's doing it.
That's
That's what I saw.
yeah. That I have. Well, the rest of the story gets more interesting to
Yeah,
address
go
that.
ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, okay, I forget where I was at with it and talking about the beings, but that's when the shadow people showed up, was the next day. To skip a whole bunch of stuff, because I know we're short for time, we went into, I moved into another apartment and I got a roommate. And when she came into that place, she was super religious, Pentecostal, long hair, long dress, doesn't, very, very, very religious, doesn't get into this stuff at all. And, but I learned that she could see these things as I could. Like these creatures, I would catch just like like the peripheral edge of things. I would see like half of an alien face peering, but it wasn't like it was poking its head through the wall. It was like kind of see through. And I would sit there because I at the time I was an art major. my new roommate, she was an art major, and I would draw like half of what I could see. I go and I see her sketchbook laying about, and she's got the same drawings, but full spectrum. I said, "Oh, you could see them." And she always called them all demons, you know? And I'm like, and my friends were devil worshippers at the UFO groups. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but you're able to see them. And you want to say that this is all demons. I said, not all of them, you know, some of them are. But again, long story short, just jumping forward, she had an incredible experience where she was driving to school in broad daylight, and the sparkling see-through like creature, kind of gelatinous looking thing, shoved its head through her windshield while she's driving through downtown Milwaukee. And she didn't remember how she drove to school, but she said it had a real calming effect to it. And it relayed to her that it was there to introduce what's to come. And again, skipping so much, she calls me in a panic. Oh my God, Heidi, I saw this thing. And I'm like, are you okay? You know, what's going on? She was always part of my friends that would only talk about these things if they were making fun of it, you know? And I'm like, what? And she's just crying her eyes out on the phone. I'm like, we go to meet up. We're at the lakefront. And I'm like, tell me what took place. She's explaining it when she suddenly goes, oh, it was so much. Let me meditate. I'm like, meditate? Like, I didn't know anybody that meditated. I'm like, you're sitting in the car. You want me to get out? You know, like, what do you mean? She closes her eyes. She's Puerto Rican. She had a very thick accent. And she closes her eyes for just a moment. And she says, hello. I've been waiting to speak to you for a very long time. And I'm like, Samantha? You know, what's going on? Oh, this is not Samantha. And the accent's reduced. I'm like, oh, okay, who's talking? You know? And I'd witnessed on 2 occasions before this with the UFO group that I belonged to, and another group that would come sometimes too, people that were being regressed, instead of being the witness talking about what it is that they're seeing, actually having the being speak through them as if they're giving answers for what it is that they're seeing, as if they're channeling type of thing. And so I'm like, okay, Heidi, your closest friend, she's something's going on here. And the voice came back and said, I'm what you would call an alien. I was like, oh, really? Where's your ship? You know, I'm kind of being a smart aleck. You know, I'm like, is she going to just start laughing? You know, is she pulling a joke? And I'm like, hold on. I remember, she was so sincere. She's crying on the phone. She's Pentecostal. She wouldn't do this, you know? And the voice, essentially, to skip some of the ins and outs of it, goes on to say, well, I'm in a ship very high up. Well, can you show your ship? Well, I cannot any longer because your government is able to shoot us down now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he offers up, but I think I'm close enough to project an image of myself so you can see that I'm real, type of thing. And the car started filling with a hum, and right between the two of us, this small tiny fleshy colored creature showed up. And I'm like pinning up against the wall of the car. I'm like, okay, I see you. I'm like, but it's not really clear. It was kind of out of focus. And it said that cannot be helped because you have weak human eyes, you know? And I'm like, okay. And it had shown her a symbol for what his name was. And she came through, Heidi, I'm seeing a symbol. This is his name. And it was a triangle with a line through it. And then she spelled out his name, CAFTH, calf. And I was like, okay, you know, what is this? And he went on to talk about DNA and how I was created by the DNA of my mother and all this stuff. And they helped with the situation. And it was just so much. And he's talking through my friend. And then she comes back and she goes, what was that? what was that? And I'm like, you tell me, you know. She's like, I went to meditate, and it was as if I was on this beach, and this being came to me, and we exchanged places. I was in his craft, he was here. I could kind of hear everything, you know. She said, but I was just amazed, and I'm going around this ship. And I was like, again, we're dealing with a Pentecostal person that thought this was all demon talk, you know. So being college kids, a bit later, we're like, you think we could do it again? You know? And by the way, she was in a crazy panic. She's trying to call all the people that are part of the UFO group, and especially the two ladies who had like a being talking through them. She's like, doesn't like reading English. She's going through my books and, you know, there's got to be answers here. You know, what is this? And, but later on, we go to reconnect with this being several times. And we were able to, but it was like, here you got all the answers to the universe, you think. I'm asking, what are the lottery numbers? What is this? What is that? You know, being real stupid. What's the name of your planet? And most of the answers were blocked and said, it would not benefit you to know that. If I told you what planet, you wouldn't know. If I told you this, you wouldn't understand it. It would not benefit you to know. And I'm like, well, what's the point of this? And then only time I got an answer, I talked about an apocalyptic dream I had. I started having all these weird dreams. And one of them, the moon was being pulled towards the earth. And all of a sudden, a ship showed up next to the moon and started dragging it away from the planet so it wouldn't hit us. I mentioned this to, you know, I'm just throwing anything at this being. I'm like, well, I ain't going to answer anyhow. I had a weird dream, you know. And that's when he said, the darkness, he said, I'm not in charge of dreams, but the darkness in your planet was pulling the moon towards the earth. We saw what was happening, so we pulled it away so it would not do that. And I was like, the darkness? What do you mean? And he said, you call them shadow people. We call them shadows. First answer that was any meaning. And I'm like, my mind exploded. I didn't have people to research who were talking about my experiences I called shadow people. This information that I got and I put in my book, The Secret War, didn't come from me. This came from this being that I had this contact with. And everybody's like, oh, your theory. No, this is not my theory. I am telling you what they said. And they told me it would get to the level where everybody would recognize what it is I'm speaking of. And I'm like, I'm a college kid. Why are you going to listen to me? What are you talking about? Do not worry about that, Heidi. We will take care of that. Your book will change a lot of perspectives on these stories and the understandings of the alien situation on your planet, the conflict and the contact that was happening. And essentially, the answers went into there being possessed alien beings, being controlled. So we wonder, here's Greys, here's Mantis, here's reptilians. What are they doing? How are they working together? Are they working together? We don't know. And these beings on different planets were essentially conquered, possessed, controlled, and all working in unison in different ways because essentially they have the same policy of there's no honor among thieves. You know, they still have their own agendas, but they work together under a certain dark source that directs them. And they use technology, they use whatever it is, but there is an inner dark, shapeless mass of energy that could manifest. It could be technology, it could be any amount of things that can anything to alter and get their way. So you can have an experience, and I go into a lot of detail in the book about this. You could have an experience with alien beings that were, you know, different looking and kind, you know, like a good conversation. Might not have been the Greys, or, you know, might have been a different type. And then you get the next night the same beings. Well, you think they are, but something has fooled you with their technology or their ability to shapeshift to make you open up, and it's the more negative ones, and they take advantage. So they said that you cannot trust with your eyes what you see, and I put this in there as well. You have to be able to close your eyes and feel what's in front of you, because they can fool you into believing anything. So this conflict, these shadow beings, this force, we have seen and heard the stories. Somebody became possessed and they contorted themselves, made themselves their face, and they used their muscles differently in the way they spoke. And these beings are also being manipulated in this similar fashion. They're essentially like being puppeted to be doing certain things. And it's like we wonder. Oh, and this was an example they gave me. You have a crowd of peaceful protest, but that one person starts a riot. That person is controlled by this same dark force, and I'm like, what? Why do this? What's the point of doing this? And it's like, why did your explorers come to your to United States? To take the land, to take the goods, to control, because they can. And they said, this is not the first planet this has been done to. We are just next in line. And then they told me about some of the things that would happen where there would be such an explosion of shadow people encounters that it would reach a certain level. And that's when you're going to see a different level of war, insight, people that are going to be able to see different colors. And now that that is happening, and then to get ready for the next phase, it's a time of change, to say the least. So that's
Mm.
it in a nutshell. So I try to get it all in there really compact. So,
All
oh,
right.
but an important part though, these beings, because the things that they're telling me about matters of the soul, and then they called me out. Well, you don't pray anymore as much as you used to, Heidi. Why not? And I'm like, because there's more than one being, but this one in particular was the main contact. And I was like, well, how would you know that? Type of thing. And it's like, who do you think is our one that we answer to? Jesus is who he said he is. He is who we answer to. And I was like, hold on, my head just exploded. What are you telling me? Are you angels? And they said, we've been called a lot of things throughout time, but we assist the source, we assist God. And Jesus is a recognized name throughout the galaxy, throughout the universe. So when you're in the face of these dark beings, this name will hurt them. And taught me how to essentially teach others how to repel these darker entities and what they're doing, whether it's alien, shadow people, hat man. Okay, there we go.
What did they teach you how to repel? What's the
That well,
process?
there's a process to keep them away for sure, but if you're face to face with them, literally being able to even say the name, think the name, project the name of Jesus, they don't like it. They do not like it. And I've had people say, "Oh, I've said all those words. I said Muhammad, I said Moses, I said all these things." And I'm like, there was a horror movie, I think it was Salem's Lot, where the guy held up a cross to the vampire, and the vampire took it out of his hand and laughed and said, "You have to have faith for that to work." So
Mm.
there has to be a level of having no doubts. And of course, we're all flawed. But really, and this is why my books have such an array. I have 8 books out, and I've got one on praying. I've got one on faith. I got one on Jesus encounters, and it's all encompassing because I get these people that write me and say, "Look, I don't get into that religious stuff, but I just saw the devil. What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, throw a shoe at it." You used a connotation that was very religious. Devil, you give him credit, but you're not going to say God can, there's an opposing force.
Mm.
You have got to be realistic about this. There are opposing forces. God, Jesus, representative, the connection, the Trinity, it is all recognized. And it's worked for me and millions of others. I've been like flapping my gums for 25 years on it. So
Yeah.
it's been working. So
Ted, just going back to what you were talking about, the 12 good angels, 12 bad angels.
Yes.
Um, is that the seraphim for you? The guys in the suspenders, the good guys?
No.
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 Can you describe the seraphim? Cherubim.
Well,
I'll get the name right later.
okay. The ones I'm talking about appeared to me like little chubby, like big babies. Uh, they had no hair on their head. They were the ones that judged me in front of this panel of judges. And so they're the ones that I'm talking about.
Now, Heidi, I've heard you describe a similar being.
Yes.
Was it exactly the same as what Ted just described?
That was the one we had the most contact with that told me all this information. It's a calf, Cafth. He looked like a small child. Looked like a small child. No hair, uh, more rounded eyes, but larger.
Yes,
He could
yes.
smile. He could smile. He had a sense of humor, even. He never wore clothes. But yeah, he looked like an innocent little kid and fleshy, pinkish almost. I have a great drawing of him somewhere. And yeah, really, he's the one that guided the whole conversation to bringing this forward. And had you told me to get back to God, what was I thinking? You know? And I was a big skeptic of people who claim to have seen Jesus in a bowl of soup or a tree trunk or a piece of toast. And I wrote about that in The Secret War. I bashed Jesus showing up. I believed he was a real historical figure that's said to come back one day. I believe that, but not walking, talking today. And, you know, I wrote that book in 97, right? 2 months, in 2 months while I was in college. It took me 4 years to finally get it published. And I had sent it out. You know, who published books on these topics back then were other authors in the same field or other radio show hosts. I sent it around. So if people were talking about shadow people before that, it's because they had my book in their hands. But, so I was aiming to get this out there. And while I was editing, changing a little bit here and there, and David Icke was about to publish it too, which is interesting. But I was, again, skeptic of Jesus encounters, and I had one. And I had to rewrite that chapter in the book because it changed everything for me to have had an encounter with him more than once, healed me more than once. And so I wrote a book called Jesus is No Joke because I took great pride picking on my friends that would go to church, you know, go to bed early on a Saturday to get up to church on a Sunday in college. And they all thought I was a devil worshiper anyways. So I'm like, ooh, I'd probably start on fire if I go in there. But I believed in God. But yeah, so I had an encounter with him and I had to rewrite that chapter and just changed everything. I would have never even been out speaking on these topics because I was extremely, I guess you could say, shy in that regard. I would never do presentations for college classes, which was hurting my grades, but I didn't care. I wouldn't speak. But when he came and he said, do not worry what other people say, know that I'll be there to give you the words. Before I do this show, before I do any show, I look to the heavens and I say, you promised me you'd give me the words. Now I'm holding you to it because I have nothing to say. Just like, so I'm going on faith alone. And I'm trying to get people to understand that's the battle. We have to realize that we are powerful. These things, aliens, shadow people, most of them get you when you're sleeping, paralyze you, and then say, got you now. We're the power. We're the superpower. You know, that took a whole lot. And sometimes there's more than one of them. It's like all of this for one human. All for one human. Like there's so much effort. How powerful are we in our faith in who we are too, and then God to be able to take on an army of darkness individually every night. You know, so I take it as a compliment when I hear people say, boy, I've got like, you know, nightly visits from these things. I'm like, well, who are you that they're so worried that you come into your full force of who you are, that they're coming every night? That's a whole lot of effort. You know, so I like to applaud people and let them know there's something to that and who we are. But also, because these things are an ancient evil and they are powerful, we have to pull the originator of our power, which is God, the source of all good, and the name of Jesus, the warrior that came here for us. So I think it's important.
Yeah. Now moving on to Hat Man, okay?
Mhm.
Um, you've described this entity that sits in people's room and watches them while they sleep, okay? He's tall and he has a hat on, okay? Now, I've heard you speak about him before, and you treat him like an individual, all right, this one specific entity, but
Hmm.
is it not a more collective effort by these beings? Like they just come in, like for example, they either use technology or they can shapeshift, and this is just another uh deception by these greys. It's not really a man with a hat, but it's really a gray alien just sat in your room.
Well, this is what you're speaking of. This is the typical one, like a gaucho hat, trench coat, glowing red eyes sometimes, sometimes not. And then there's also this version will come with a cape, and you see the glowing red eyes and the,
Mhm.
the top hat.
They also appear as the Mothman.
Well,
Same
yeah,
group,
yeah.
same
There.
same group.
Well, people say that. I don't. I only speak to what I understand and know for myself. People have different perspectives on the material, but I'm going from the source of alien beings from all that time ago. But when it comes to the Hat Man, I didn't witness him the first time. That was the Pentecostal college roommate who drew this image here that's been ripped off all over the world. She drew that. And so she's the originator of that. Copyrights, who cares, anybody? I swear. She was so mad about that, and I think she still is because it's copywritten. But yeah, so it's when it came to him and the terror level that she experienced with that, I thought she was being murdered. She was in the next room screaming for just, I thought somebody was killing her, and I came racing over, and I'd never seen anybody in that kind of fear. And I assumed, and I put him in the category as being a shadow being. And in fact, when I released, on my website, UFO, the number two and the letter U.com, I would put the shadow people images up as she made them. And when I put the Hat Man one up, everything changed because I went from being the UFO alien lady, having a UFO group for 15 years, to shadow people lady. Oh, you're a paranormal hunter. What? It's always aliens. So when she saw this thing, I thought it was another shadow being that could shapeshift into that. I didn't let it sink in how solid he could be and how different he acts. He loves to talk. Shadow people generally growl or whisper, and I'm talking about the real shadow beings, the essence of them. I mean, I understand. I've seen a gray alien being shapeshift into a shadow spider. I've seen that myself too. I know that there's like technologies with some of them, but they can mimic each other. But there is a spectral, actual shadow being that can shapeshift and seems cloud-like. Hat Man could become cloud-like. He could walk through the walls and punch you across the face and be that solid. Now, I speak of Hat Man being a single entity for a reason because there is an original. There is an original. These others, I guess you could say, are mimicking, tricking people to believe that, oh, he's here, he's there. There's individuals who will appear as that. There are people who will dress as Hat Man. And there's a whole phenomena behind why that's going on. But there is an original Hat Man. And in fact, I've been talking to this element. I had a friend who showed me this sculpture of this being, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody did a really great rendition of Hat Man. And my friend didn't give me a tag to tell me what this was. She's like, what do you think of this? And I said, oh my gosh, it's Hat Man. That's so cool. Somebody did a really good job. And she froze. She's like, Heidi, do you know what that is? I'm like, no, that's Ahriman. I don't know who Armand is. And she goes, Rudolf Steiner? I don't know who Rudolf Steiner is. Rudolf Steiner, he is the one, he's the founder of anthroposophy, apparently. He's the one who sculpted that 100 years ago, Heidi. And he said this is Ahriman, the form of the devil, essentially, who he said 100 years from now, essentially, he would rise up and this would be a topic that would be addressed. And I can't even tell you guys, even now I get chills. It's like the epiphany of I found you. I was told there'd be others here that were like myself, that were aware of some of these things. And here it was 100 years prior, Rudolf Steiner, and to be like, I know now. I know he saw you, because Hatman will talk and tell people, who are you? You know, and or people would ask in their emails to me, who is this guy? He's a devil, isn't he? And he would introduce himself as that too. And that's how this has been introduced through Rudolf Steiner as well, being this devil. So it's come full circle, and there's so much more to say too. And I in a lot of interviews lately, I've been alluding to the fact that there's another half to the story that I'm just more getting comfortable with the whole thing. It's a lot. And I'm usually not one to hesitate in putting stuff out when I get new information, but this one is a doozy. And it's honestly, I think, and I'm pretty sure it's even more profound than the Shadow People Hatman. Being the first person to ever discover, name, define, and now trademark two phenomena, it's like it's been a whirlwind, but everything happens for a reason, and I think I found out that reason. Little did I know. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different levels to this story, and
Yeah.
I
To
don't
this
know.
phenomenon. I heard someone recently talking about Dogman, okay, and then in their description, Dogman turned into a shadowy black cloud and went off. And again, that to me there is like it's the technology that they're using. In this person's recounting of it, the Dogman was an impressive creature, scary, twice the size of a bear, but the humans were always staying one step ahead of it. And it's to me like it seemed to be trying to elicit fear from people. All right. Could you say that's the purpose of what the Shadow People and Hatman do? They're trying to create that fear for maybe they harvest it.
Uh, you know, I know people, I mean, whether it's technology or an ability, the details don't matter so much as the purpose behind the whole thing, right? Um, these things do look for fear, but they do feed upon that. It's like you feed into it and they pull a step closer. It's like they're drawing it out of you, and they're able to get that punch to land. But ultimately, I've received thousands of these stories over the years. I think I got the first night on Coast, I must have got 7,000 emails. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't even get them all. It slammed and destroyed my email account. Um, so, yeah. So to say what these things are, when a person is met with Hatman in particular, he loves to get people within an inch of their life. They're so much in fear that they literally say, I give up. I mean, imagine this thing with like ear to ear, a grin with shark-like teeth, and you could see his eyes, glowing red, and he loves to get an inch nose to nose to you, smiling, threatening. I'm gonna chew and chew on you. And he could be raping you, doing horrible things to you, scratching at your body. And when you're like, I give up, kill me already. This is what they say. That's when he takes his fist and he punches it in their chest and pulls their soul out and throws them, and they start falling, and they're going to this horrible place, and they're screaming, begging, calling out to God, and that's how they get back. People think this is such a physical place that we're in. It's really a spiritual place. We're in a battle. We are absolutely in a battle. And I only hear back, of course, from the people who made it back to their bodies after he's done that. So what does he want? Yeah, he wants to feed on that fear because that fear breaks us down. What repels him? Positive laughter. He hates laughter. He loves to laugh at you, but so people, if there's any criticism I've ever got, it's like, oh, she seems too upbeat or happy or laughing too much. That's my superpower. What's yours? I do that with most topics I talk about because this stuff is so heavy and dark. How else are you going to deal with it? So it's like,
I do the same thing. I create a lot of silly laughter because it cancels out the negative charges they put on you.
yeah,
It does,
it really,
and people don't realize that, but
yeah,
it's kind of a natural ability to throw this off.
it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. So, but yeah, so these dark things want to hold you. They want to take you. The souls that get trapped with them, there's a holding pattern that they have you in. There is, because mankind, what do? We get pulled and we learn. We go. Since I was, gosh, I think the youngest I was 5 years old that I recall going to this place I call the Crystal City. And the buildings look like ancient Greek and they're all crystal and marble and people in white robes and being taught there and learning so much. And I still go and I still get things from that. And there's a level of experience that our soul goes through. People say reincarnation. Yes, many lifetimes, whatever you want to say. But we grow and mankind's evolving. We're evolving. We don't realize this. And they're trying to stop that pattern. Hat Man and shadow people. So when shadow people see you could see them, they'll usually rush you and try to crowd you and block you from being able to see and do other things. You're living in fear. You don't want to explore. Hat Man sees you and he comes for you too. And he tries to rid you of being here. They really go after those who are creative, gifted. And sure, I've had people who are just like, okay, I did the Ouija board once. Yeah, sure, that could attract it. But 9 times out of 10, it's because they're gifted that these things are attracted. It's not because they conjured something.
I'm stepping away for a minute, gang.
That's fine.
All right, Ted. So is Hatman, is this just an identity that the Greys are using? That's what I'm trying to get at here. Is it like Dogman, like Mothman? It's not, it's just an illusion. And it's really just these little 4-foot grey guys.
No,
No.
I think I explained pretty good.
There is a Hatman then. A
There is
physical
a
Hatman.
there is a Hat Man. Like I said, it could be, these beings can make themselves appear as other things. I have, for so many years, people are like, well, my gray aliens are nice. After they raped me, they taught me how to use their alphabet. I don't think those were good guys. So that sorry, I don't think rape is ever good. I don't think the word abduction is a good word either. They took you, why don't they come and have a conversation, get to know you? Hey, we want to go meet you at the ship. Okay. They don't do that. It's all incognito. And it's for a reason. They hide for a reason. And that's what these more positive beings told me. These things shape shift for a reason. They change their appearance for a reason. They're trying to throw people off. But it's all under if you can imagine one fence side being positive, the other side negative. Getting into the details of, did that one use technology or was that one able to do that? It doesn't matter. If they're on that side of the fence, they are all connected. They all are doing the same thing. There is a negative, dark source of energy. That's how it was explained to me. We come from a more positive source, God, creator, energy. And that is to implement a certain path, growth, love, learning. These guys not learning, limit everything else so we could control it. Colonists came here and controlled the natives. They did this. Why? well, it's slave labor. Well, and we get to have the land, we get to have the goods, we get to, and it's like it to get into the, well, I think that this alien's probably doing that. Those are controlled beings, though, by this, they have a certain dark agenda. They're influenced. And what does David Grush talk about? Interdimensionals. Wasn't that enlightening? He said that. He said those words because they are able to be ethereal and physical. You know, they're able to do both. So what is that? He didn't say it was a technology doing that. He said interdimensional. So they're able to fluctuate. I watched a gray shapeshift in front of my eyes. I didn't see him tap a little button to say, I'm a shapeshift now. And you know what's crazy? The first items that they were taking in my apartment to look at, I had a photo of my nephew in that baby blue suit with the afro. So it's shapeshifted, got the information from the other one. This is what we can use to fool her to think it was just her nephew in her apartment. Well, he was 10 years older already, you know. So it was a reconnaissance, I guess, getting that information on me. But so it's like, again, it's like, are the details going to matter if it's this or that? They could use, and I'll tell you, the alien beings, and I put this in the Secret War book too, said that, you know, they have technologies to fool people, to control people. And I said, what technologies? He said, anything you can imagine possible, they're using it. And I was like, anything to fool you and to allow a certain pattern for you to, when we're in fear, we can't think clear. You know, when we're in fear, we're trying to run and get out of the situation. So we have to find our power within ourselves, realize that they are taking so much energy to take us down, guys. And people are thinking there's going to be a big battle in the sky. I have seen craft shooting at each other, unfortunately. Yeah, the big battle of the end of the world, you know, they think it's the chariots of the gods, but we're having a battle already in our bedrooms at night. We're losing people too. People are dying in this darkness. And it was indicated to me, if you're a person that has alien abductions, you're being infiltrated by all these dark beings, shadow people, Hat Man, and people have reported this too. At the end of your life tunnel, when you're crossing over, there's aliens at the end of it. These things are taking the souls as you're crossing over because they got their claws into you to track you towards them.
Yeah.
So we've got to change this.
Yeah. But I think it's important for people to realize that, like, all right, you might be investigating, say, Hat Man or Dog Man or Mothman, but really at the core, it's a little gray alien. But it's not. We're going to disagree on this, okay? I don't believe it. I don't believe it is shape shifting. I think it's technology. Ted, I don't know if you would agree with that.
I've talked to people. I had somebody who watched their grandfather sleep, taking a nap on the couch, shape shift into a werewolf-looking creature. So
Yeah, but the thing is, these beings have this technology, this holographic technology, which has been documented. I mean, it was documented in Masquerade of Angels. There was a person lying in bed who had this experience inside this blue field. Ted, you were outside the blue field and didn't see anything that they were describing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
but does it help anything to know it's grays if they're rotten stuff?
I think it does because it's the way they're doing it is they're departmentalizing. Okay, so you think you're investigating one thing, but really it's just a tentacle of this bigger monster. Okay, uh, and I think that if people really got the facts behind that, your experiences, like Holly, I've heard you talk. Okay, and great story, fantastic story, love it. Uh, I'll give an example, okay? This incident with your nephew. Do you think that might just be a screen memory
No,
where this being transformed into your nephew?
no, because I trust myself, and I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of people. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, and they're like, those are the same eyes that you use to drive to work every day. My eyes don't play tricks on me like that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
I trust myself, and I'm a therapist.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
It's
here,
like,
look, you
yeah,
you you know yourself, okay? But
yeah.
I'd look at a situation like that, and there was no like you had the story of the being turning into your nephew, and why were they there? What was going on?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, yeah, this is the
Oh, well,
question.
hey,
This
well,
is
you
the thing.
know,
Why were they there? Okay. Like you wake
yeah,
up and then you even offered to get the being a cookie because
yes,
it was
the
so
one look
shook
like a
up. Do you not
yeah,
think
look like
that's a
a
bit
child.
unusual? Do you not?
Oh, oh, trust me, I've been in this a long time. I've heard that question asked so many times, but it's like again. I can't sit there and be in the heads of these beings. I joined a group. I get a black helicopter, and then oh, I got military abductions, and then I get this. It was like one thing after another. I was just a person that had craft that responded, and it comes into all of this. Now, I haven't had those experiences since, it was
Yeah.
like an introduction to, I felt like they were contagious. When I started my group, sure enough, people would come to the meetings. I have 50 plus people every month, and people that were just curious. Next month they come, I saw a UFO. It's
Yeah.
common. It
Yeah,
is
but
very common.
what I'm talking about is more there's intruders in your home and you offered them a cookie. Does that not seem out of place?
No, well, no, no. If you're a human being and you saw a child that looked terrified, I was trying to calm that one because that one had emotions. That one looked kind of like us. So
Hmm.
I didn't have any feeling for those other ones. They were grays. They froze like robots. They all had the O for their mouth, like, and froze. This one was a living, breathing, with the curly red hair, freckles, fleshy colored. It was terrified, and I felt responsible for scaring it.
Just
Yeah,
on another point, although it had curly red hair, was it still an alien looking creature?
it looked like half us, half them.
Hmm.
It was absolutely half us, half them. And that's the thing people got to realize. They're having hybrid children that are being created to essentially live on this earth and be controlled by them.
Yeah.
You know,
See
it's like
that
an
that's
army.
that's another thing like we're going to disagree on as well, okay?
Well, everybody will disagree on their own experiences.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah,
You could
yeah.
go through it for eons, and
Yeah.
I trust myself versus your perspective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But let me ask you this, okay? I'll just put a
Yeah.
simple question to you, okay? If would you describe them as like a parasitic, they're feeding off our emotions, our energy, that's what they want, our souls. Why, if they replace us with hybrids, where are they going to get their energy from?
I didn't say they're replacing us with that. There's a bigger, broader agenda that it's hard to touch base on within an hour.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
it
yeah.
could be a whole day of talking.
I suppose
And
we've gone over it now anyway, so
it's okay. It's okay. But no, it's doing these types of interviews, trying to give such a little sprinkling, dusting of the bigger picture for everybody's experience is really hard to do. And that's why I try not to poo-poo other people's experiences for what they believe to be true. Because I mean, here I was in the midst of all these alien abductees who were loving their abductors all of a sudden, and I was like, I remember the terror. I didn't appreciate these nine guys coming in my place and then sending their boss after me. That was the scenario I understood. They sent their boss after me when they couldn't take me and have their way. Anytime shadow beings would come, I'd wake up. There was something in me that my heart would start beating real fast, and I get an adrenaline rush, and there's something in my room. I was never paralyzed. I was never stuck with aliens or these beings. So, and I've learned why now, and that's part of this new information I need to bring forward soon. But there's a whole lot that our government's involved in, uh, aspects of my family I didn't know about. I mean, just so much. Like, why would they put so much energy on me? I've had 3 military abductions and interrogated. And I remembered, and I was yelling at all of them. They're telling me this is going to seem like a bad dream. I said, no, I'm going to remember you, and you. Why are you doing this to your own people? I was the only one. There's a whole neighborhood of people, and I'm the only one just ranting at them. Why was I not paralyzed like the rest of them? Why do I remember? So, yeah, there's different scenarios for different people. Why do these things go on? I think I have a better understanding now, but but again, it's like if we could just look at the two sides of the fence. I don't want to be on that one. I'll be on this one
Mm,
because those are bad guys. I mean, I'm not flying around in a craft to say, I know the Greys did that. I'd helped on some investigation with the Dog Man for the CW on Mysteries Decoded. And I met the people and how these things would disappear in an instant. Is it an illusion? It slaughtered their llama, Uh,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
terrorized the people. I met a police officer who really had a horrible scare. So it's like to say exactly, can we figure out all of it? I mean, does it matter if we could clear our path in our lives? I think that's the big part because they're after tearing us down.
Yeah.
That's and I just hope to God that we figure this out before it's too late. Um, Everybody's like, "Oh, the end of the world's coming," and I'm like, "Oh no, we're gonna lose too many people because people don't get it yet."
Yeah, yeah. Ted, have you got anything to say before we go?
Yeah, I would like to suggest something. I have found in my experiences, and when I call on Jesus, I identify him as Jesus who died on the cross for our sins. Because I have learned there are a lot of demons who carry the name Jesus. And when you say, Jesus, help me, 5 demons show up.
Ooh, I've
And
never heard of that one.
and
Wow.
and and so I'm just suggesting to the listeners, when you call on Jesus, make sure no demon ever died on the cross for us.
No.
No. So identify and get the right Jesus. I think people may find that helpful. It may not happen instantly, but over a period of time of always identifying the right Jesus, you're going to find a result positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So be
That's beautiful.
specific, folks.
That's beautiful. And I have more time if you guys want to chat further. And by the way, I met Dr. Carla Turner. She's something else, something else at the
Yeah.
Ozark UFO conference.
Yes. Do you find uh I see there are two sides, good and evil. And
Yeah.
the true good is God, Jesus, the right Jesus who died on the cross for us, and their angels. If they don't take us through the walls at night, they don't show up as a hat man. They
Right.
don't show up as a gray. They don't show up in the daytime with care. They don't come into our house, 8 of them, and one of them getting red hair. They don't do any of that.
They don't.
All of the others are working together in some form or fashion. They're all related, including ghosts.
Yes, the negative ones.
That's the two sides. So I don't believe anything, any alien. I don't care if they tell me to pray to Jesus. I don't believe anything they tell me because they have proven to me they are compulsive, chronic liars. And they will tell us anything to get us to not focus on what they're really doing and chase the hat man, or chase the shadow man, or or any of those, the dog man. People get focused on these tangents and go chasing after it instead of paying attention to what's really going on.
I don't know if you're categorizing what I'm talking about into that, but that's not what my story is. My story is the Greys were bad. Even the curly haired one was bad. The hybrid was bad. Uh, the being that came and spoke of God, Jesus, and how to protect yourself in his blood, that was the positive being. That was the one that looked like an angelic cherub, like small child. But it wasn't just that. It
But do,
wasn't just that.
do you think Jesus sent them?
I didn't say that that was the case. They told me that they listened to God and that Jesus is who he said he is, and that is whose command that they believed in. That
What,
was that
do
was
you
the
believe
power.
that? Do you believe that?
I
That
believe
they're
that.
telling you believe they're telling you the truth there?
Look at the case scenario of millions around the world now realizing the modern day devil and his minions, shadow people, hat man, and how to repel them and blessing their space, calling on Christ. Yes, I believe that because it has happened just as they said. And what's occurred in today's world, where are we? We're seeing a battle of people still dealing with this dark presence, but recognizing it for what it is. So no, I don't think I've been shaded to not see the truth of it because somebody had a bad experience. I know for myself and what it is that I've been recalled to do, not through hypnosis, outright memories. It wasn't just a being telling me this. I recalled for myself, and it was all at one spontaneous occasion when I wasn't looking for it.
Mm.
So,
Where
and
where
I didn't even get into that part. So it's like for I that's why I don't bash anybody for what they believe to be true for themselves because we don't know the whole story, and especially not in an hour.
mm,
So I'm pretty certain on my experiences. You can feel certain about yours for sure, but I know mine.
we're very
So
suspicious.
well, I see that. I don't, to come on here to talk about my experience and say, and yours is wrong. I've never
Well,
had anybody
we
just,
never said that.
well, pretty much.
We just
So,
said we might have some disagreement about some
Oh,
certain
well,
things.
yeah, to have disagreements is cool, but, it's like you got to be able to close your eyes and to know what's in front of you. I've taken enough time to know what I dealt with. I have not been successfully hypnotized, and there's so much controversy around being hypnotized and everybody's memories that have come forward with that. I haven't been. I have my memories outright, and I have scientific evidence of some of this too. So it's one thing to have an opinion on somebody's experience, but I'm not one to sprinkle and shove, believe this or not. I like to hear people's perspective, but if somebody asks me to share, I'll share it. I'm not here to cram it. But this is what's occurred. This is how being the first person to ever do this, as I did as a college kid, to put word out there at this level. It's first person in history to do such a thing, and it's like it's been a lot of effort. And being a young minority woman to do that, I've been up against so much more than just aliens and demons. It has been really hard because it is a man's world. Let me tell you, it has been really difficult. And now it's I get asked to be on different TV shows, and they're like, "Oh wow, you know so much about these topics." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the person that put it out there." "Yeah, but we can't have a woman be the voice of this. Can you teach a man everything you know?" I just
well,
had that happen a month ago. So,
that's ridiculous thinking.
oh, it's ridiculous, but this is what they're doing.
Yeah,
This is literally. So it's
it's
like,
true in
I
the
don't,
world. But yeah, hey, I want to thank you for all the positive work you've done. Uh, you have really helped a lot of people. When people had no one to turn to, they learned from you. And I want to thank you for that contribution you've made. We may not agree on everything, but I look at it as we learn from each other. And just hearing you today, I've learned some things. And thank you for that.
no, I appreciate it. I learned from you as well. It's like, there's so much more that needs to be done. And, I'll be doing this till I fall over dead. I do this for little to, especially if somebody reaches out for help, somebody sends me a message, I'm there, I'm answering it. I don't say, hold it, that'll be $20, please. Somebody wants the prayer protection to keep these things away. I send it to them. I don't say, go get this book. I've given thousands of my books away for free. And it's like, but there's guys that have taken my material and they're the face of this. I'm like, What? I go on a TV show, they take my words and feed it to a guy to sound like they said it. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's horrible. And now there's cults around it. I've learned children have died trying to conjure Hat Man because there's this viral stuff going on, and it's got to be corrected. So I'm trying my best, and it's really a difficult thing. But just to know that one person got changed, it's been well worth it. So
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah,
You keep doing your work. It's great.
definitely. And I appreciate your work and the things that you guys are working on. It's all important. We need all the different voices in this. We do. We can't just have a one-track mind. I have a lot of learning to do and growing, and everybody does. But yeah, it's really we're up against a lot because there's a lot of people believing all these beings are just invite them in.
Yeah.
They're all love and light.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
whoa, what are we doing here, guys? We have
If
got to figure
if
this
we
out.
if we can agree on anything, it's definitely that the love and
Oh,
life.
oh,
All right.
terrible.
Thank you, Heidi, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
are you working on a new book at the moment? Is this where the information is going to come out?
Yeah, I've been working on that, but it's not just the book thing. I had to get some more research, and it's really difficult and it involves a lot of heavy hitters out there, and yeah, it's a lot, and I've never been nervous to take a step forward on something. I'm nervous about this, and I'm just an open book about whatever. It's like I use my real name. This is me. All my flaws, they're right here, because I want whatever little chunk of me that could help. I'm here for that. But this next step is really, it's not just about me, and it's very, very it's a great hope. It's not a dark thing. It's a
Mm,
great hope. And but I'm just nervous because it involves a big picture that I think might shake up a lot of people. So,
yeah. Interesting. Okay. I'm
yeah.
intrigued. All right. Till the next time, listeners.
Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate this.
All right.
Goodbye.
Take care.